Yeah. So basically, you talked about this, I think, like a couple weeks ago, where Anthropic is heavily, or all the model providers are subsidizing the compute costs, and it's all baked into the tokens. And so we're starting to see, or people are seeing, your essentially you have caps on your token usage for your max plans or your enterprise plans. And so there's this kind of interesting tipping point where it just makes more sense to maybe use your cloud provider for the back end token usage, because one, you're not going to hit any caps, you're not really throttled, and the pricing's kind of, I'm paying $100 a month or $40 a month or $200 a month depending on whatever it is, but then I'm using $1,000 a month on my power users. Like, it's just a drop in the bucket, so I'll switch it over. I can consolidate my spend, I can burn down my commitments with the hyperscalers. Maybe they give me some discounts or credits or incentives. So I think that's, and really, this, I think, is more of a reflection. You still got the subsidy part, which is terrifying to think once you get everybody on the platform and then you raise rents. But the adoption curve of tokens with Opus 4.6, especially in terms of coding, is insane. And right, you've seen it. Like, the last thing I think I checked in February was it was at like 2.4 billion ARR, and that was up from 1 billion December of last year. And so you're just seeing this explosion of it. And so, yeah, it's interesting, the fallout from that. Nothing else stays the same. But yeah, so long story short, like we were discussing is basically using Amazon Bedrock for your backend for providers like Claude Code, Cursor, and Glean is actually becoming, I don't know if I'd say popular, but the value prop is actually pretty compelling for a number of different reasons, depending on your relationship with the hyperscaler.
Yeah. I think we talked previously too about like, how would you sell AWS into accounts? I think that's like a good, like, conversation starter now, right? Like that
Oh
you,
yeah, yeah.
that your all account teams use.
All my accounts, we're having these conversations. So it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting for sure. I still have to learn more because it's every platform, but it feeds into some of the things we're going to talk about today, where you see this shift in pricing with SaaS, right? So if you separate the platform, whatever that is, in terms of GTM, is that a Clay? Is that a HubSpot? Is that a Figma? And so you're paying per seat, and then, you know, you also have AI credits. Sometimes they're using like, oh, the seat includes some credits, but it's, if we know that large language model tokens are commoditized or more of an infrastructure as a service, that's not where the SaaS provider is differentiating. I'm just going to make my 20% margin on it and pass it through. I don't want to try to embed the cost structure of a power user or like the outliers into my $100 a month subscription. I've got to keep my margin. And so, and one way they're doing that is, here's your up to free credits, which is included, and that's our 80% cost margin. And then everything after that is, oh, this is your tier. And that sounds pretty familiar about Doom for us in the infrastructure and platform world, usage-based pricing.
Yeah. Yeah. It is fascinating. It's exciting. Yeah. I'm curious, like and I think I brought this up like last week, like we have the Slack AI bot and it's, oh, you're in this plan until March and then your billing goes, and I was like, oh, like what happens after March?
You're about to find out, bro. Look, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you a hint. It's not going to go down.
Yeah, I know. Right. Well, and I mentioned one of our engineers, I thought it was a great question. She's, hey, we talk so much and we're pushing and advocating. Oh, do we have any documented like qualitative analysis on the ROI that
Shut
all
your
this?
warm mouth, Doom. This is fun. This is dopamine, baby.
And
Coming
it
to
turned
play.
out, I was like, oh, that's
The wrong
fascinating.
question.
But coming from an engineer, and she was like, and that wasn't even from like finance or ops. It was just like an engineer asking us. I was like, good question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so real, though. I posted on that today on LinkedIn. Just, I'll read it in a second. But so there's this memory. It's like back, I think. And it's a brain game where it works your active memory. And so it's memory enhancing. The claim to fame is it's add 10 IQ points. And I've done it a couple times, and it's like, if you do it consistently, you can notice a difference. And I'm like, damn, this is good. So oh, I don't if I'm not at my desk, I want to be able to use it, but I don't want to pay the $5. So I just prompted Claude Code. I was like, hey, so I went to Claude. I was like, give me a good plan for creating an iOS version of this. I don't want to pay for it. So, oh, that's a great question. And we'll put this plan together. And then I did it. 10 minutes later of quote unquote thinking, going back and forth and accepting all the permissions, produced in Xcode all the things I needed. I pushed it to my iPhone, and then the audio doesn't work. There's 22 rounds. Only 4 of them were tests. So like it was just me watching this little block go around my screen and not actually quizzing me. I was like, what the fuck is going on? So like, I don't know how many tokens that burned for this application that works in the sense that it loads and doesn't accomplish any of the outcomes. And so I just feel like we're in this world of I'm doing so much. It's what is the value? It's wrong question, Bob. Try again. Nobody wants to hear that shit.
On another note though, like you should draft a post on that, like walking through and then highlighting like at the end the realities, because one, it just walking through your process of how you did it, then why you decided to do it, and then just here's the capstone of what actually came of this. And not a knock, but just like a documentation of like real life what I'm doing.
Totally. I just have this massive mental gap of all the things I'm doing but yet I see other people and they're just, hey, this is changing the world. It's like, is it? Or is it just like the product market fit is amazing and you can scale with less employees? I can't really tell. So this was from Faz on Twitter, Vesuman, at Vesuman. He says, somewhere out there is a guy who uses Notion, Superhuman, OpenClaw on a Mac Mini, Raycast, a mechanical keyboard, $400, Whisperflow, and gets nothing done every day. And I just damn near died. It's like, it's so real. It's like,
It is. It's fun. I think I don't know if I mentioned last week, I have another buddy. He's in Australia and he's a former founder, and he's been building like an app a day is his like thing that he's doing. And so it's like whatever idea he has, I just go on and I'm building. Obviously not everything's like fully functional, but at least it's getting something like out there.
it's like writing, right? Just write. Every day you show up at 9 a.m., you write for an hour and a half, you throw the first paragraph away or first page, and then that's how you get better. So that totally makes sense to me.
Yeah. And I remember, and when I told him, I was like, oh, this was like the Matt Garman approach. So I remember, I think it was at one SKO or one something when I was at AWS, he mentioned, was it AW when I was in product or whatever? He's like, I would write a PR FAQ every day. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, you're writing a PR FAQ. Don't you have anything to do?
It's for love of the game, dude. That's
Yeah.
why he's CEO.
Yeah. But
Don't hate.
yeah, no hate, because it's cool though. Cause if you think about it, at the end of the year, if you did one a week, you'd still have 52 ideas that you pumped out that could become maybe a viable business. Right. So it's
Yeah.
just like the exercising and just like doing it. So I think it's cool. But to your point, like we're building stuff may not be anything, but I think it just ups your acumen.
Yeah. No, I agree. Let's pivot to some of the headlines, some of the things you called out. So I'll just rattle these off. So Microsoft just partnered with Anthropic to launch the AI that can run office work for you, called Copilot Cowork. So another one of those. Anthropic's entire growth marketing team is just one person for the last 10 months confirmed. So I guess this deals with all the SEO, paid social, app stores, email marketing. Sure, it helps that their CEOs on every major podcast and one of the hottest labs in the world. But what else we got here? This one was surprising. You just sent me this. Atlassian just confirmed 1,600 layoffs with 900 plus coming from engineering. So this is interesting because I just watched a A16Z podcast with the CEO of Atlassian. So that surprised me a little bit. But any of these resonate more than others?
The most recent one, I guess reading through that post, I guess what they had done over the last like couple months is they were sitting with all of their like lead and top engineers and screen recording and then interviewing them of walk me through your daily process, which is hindsight. They're probably like, oh, it was like, I was like digging my own grave. But
yeah, we had mentioned this, I think a month ago. I remember reading an article and it called out an interview with a vice president or an executive at a firm. And he wasn't in sales, but he was a partner. So he had a combination of domain knowledge, think like at a financial firm or even a law firm. And he actually uses his own personal subscriptions for this exact reason, because they're trying to extract all the decades of knowledge, the systemized knowledge that's in our heads that quote unquote goes out the most important asset goes down the elevators and out the door every day. How do I pull some of that in and then automate it? And so it's terrifying to think that. And I, I so I don't work what it feels like in a department. So we're in sales, but I'm in B2B sales. And so a lot of the outcomes are I'm trying to influence are outside the organization. I don't have direct control. I'm literally every day trying to influence and benefit from things that are going on. And I struggle to find use cases that are slam dunks. And so the best thing I found, just to make it about me, is that if I hand off some of the things that I would delay on, procrastinate, or I'm just cognitively, I'm exhausted, I'm going to be in the plane, I'm not going to be able to work for the 4 hours, kick those off. It does a really good job. And it gets me to a point where I'm just like, sweet, this is great. Let me tweak it, tailor it. It's good enough, ship it. And so just the fact that I can move faster to get to the activities that I want to be focused on is huge, because these aren't like trivial for me, just data cleanup. This is how do you design a strategy around these services interacting with another. So it can go real technical, real deep, but in this role, understanding your customer's business and understanding your business at a very deep technical level really helps you earn trust and drive outcomes with your customers. So that's where I struggle. Outside of that, it's like, how would you automate that? A robo dialer? I don't fucking know. Like, I'm not saying I'm immune because get capped in the head tomorrow from HR, but so I see your writings. I'm like, that's freaking cool. I don't know how I would do that. There's so much internal bureaucracy and systems and tickets, and my scope is so narrow. And don't get me wrong, they are building systems to do a lot of that on the back end, I feel like what we've seen. But again, I can't sell $1 million by myself. Like, I need a customer to buy it from me. So that's why, what are you going to do automating an agent? I don't know. That's my soapbox.
Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting. I think it's early. It's scary with that 1,600 layoffs and like documenting workflow. Yeah. I think for us, maybe you and I are, and I don't know, knock on wood, like you said, like shielded for a moment. But I think if there's junior reps or people who are doing like rope type, oh, I need to do my like outbound. I think a lot of that can probably start to be automated. And that was like that Lenny's podcast at the start of the year where I fired all my salespeople, because if you can get good enough like outbound email engagement, good enough like inbound, which sounds like human response to get to the lead qualifier. Oh, they reached the band C or the medic, and then it's pass it off to the Quinn or the Doom. And then senior operators take it. So you may be
Yeah.
able to some stuff.
I mean, there's just so much low hanging fruit. I go on a little tangent. So I asked the question, hey, do you have the XYZ data from our systems on this for my customer? They're like, oh no, the latest data I have is 2022. So there obviously wasn't integration. It was just an old account plan. Take, for example, though, Calendly. Like, how frustrating is it to find a spot for 3 companies, multiple teammates, 5 or 6 teammates to meet that works for everybody? That is the bane of my existence. You send out some times, you have to wait for somebody else. There's a whole fucking job called an EA for this. Because it's not just about availability. It's, do I really want to meet at that time? Like, this is a partner meeting, not a customer meeting. It's a different priority. I can't think in the afternoons. Everyone's got their own nuances, right? So then whatever the Calendly link comes out, and basically nothing pisses me off more than someone sending me their Calendly link, so I have to fucking book a meeting with them when they're the ones that asked for it. That is one of my biggest pet peeves. So it's like this simple thing that Microsoft just announced Copilot Cowork probably still can't do, because there's not going to be trust. People are not going to enable it or opt in. And we're still going to be spending hours trying to figure out how to book meetings this year with customers that we work with on a weekly and daily basis. And so I don't get it. Like, how do you lay off 1,600 people, but like these things that are quote unquote low hanging fruit, like we still can't fix.
Yeah. I mean, on that, that is a tough one in general. 'Cause you highlighted like a lot of points. Like I don't think well in the afternoon. And so like, I know some people will put do not disturb box or whatever. And so, I mean, if their calendars are managed, it could work, but I think, yeah, that's a tough one because I deal with it just internally trying to find online and everybody's got a meeting or you're blocked or here it says do not disturb.
Reinvent, right? You have the executive briefing center meetings. You get them approved. You submit them. You write the documentation. You get them approved, and then you go to book it in the tool, and the EAs have their calendars blocked. Like it defeats the entire purpose of having the tool. In my mind, it's just we don't know which meetings we want to take yet, so you can't book it. It's sweet. So, anyways, I digress, man. But
Yeah.
did you see anything about the Microsoft Copilot Cowork? Is that y'all use that yet? Or is it an integration or with Cowork?
Yeah, we don't use the Microsoft suite. We're like Google and Notion, so I haven't played around with
Okay.
it. I personally I have Microsoft on mine personal computer, but I haven't played with it. But a lot of the stuff it was like referencing, I'm like, oh, this is for the Microsoft users because Cloud Cowork is already doing that with the Google because it has all my Google Drive plugins, Notion plugins, Slack. So yeah, I think it's just exposing, which is a huge market share, but getting access to Microsoft users now to basically use Cowork.
Yeah.
That's my, yeah.
Let's pivot to the next conversation. So this is interesting to me. So SaaS pricing. Did you check out this article? Like the new, and like I said, I mentioned it earlier on. Let's see if I can share this. So don't copy pricing lessons from this. And this is from Kyle Porter's Growth Unhinged. Founders' top pricing inspirations for 2025. If you're listening, 19% of mentions were for Intercom. I had to look up Intercom. I had never
Yeah.
heard of Intercom. So they are apparently like a help desk self-service type platform. And I guess they've got this interesting pricing model of like seats and credits and things like that. HubSpot, which I'm an investor in, I don't even know, like 10 years, 8 years, 11%. So that's cool. So those are outcome-based pioneers. Then you've got these hybrid early adopters in OpenAI, Clay, and Salesforce. And then you've got usage-based pricing to SMBs is what they have. And those are Notion, Slack, and Canva. So we talked about this a little bit, how like this whole shift outcome-based pricing. And I was pretty bullish on it. And then I was listening to this podcast with the CEO of Atlassian and the A16Z, and he outlaid, I guess, it's not a novel concept, but if your whole value prop is, I'm going to save you 40% on your bill because I drive this outcome because you're going from Oracle to open source, what do you do at renewal? What is stopping someone else to be like, I'll save you 50%? Or if you achieve the outcome, the perceived value of you're just charging me to keep the price down, like to not get gouged, is an interesting mental model. Whereas I think things like tickets make sense because there's a derived outcome there, but it's going to be hard, in my opinion. I'd be curious what you think, unless so the ISV or the SaaS provider is not going to want, they're going to want to charge the most they can to capture most of the value they bring to drive their top line revenue. And then the customer is going to want to have the lowest price. This is not rocket science, but the big challenge here is what is the actual value to the organization, right? And this all goes back to Salesforce or whatever. They come in and be like, we're going to consolidate, we're going to change your process, you're going to close 10 days faster, which is going to bring in X amount of millions or billions of dollars. And there's a lot of kind of hand waving and dependencies in there. So it just makes you wonder, how are you going to come to, if the outcome's not clearly defined and the value's not clearly defined and it's going to vary by every company, how are you ever going to agree on it if you don't have the same assumptions going in, right? And I just don't see how every SaaS provider can have a different cost model, outcome-based cost model for every customer. And so I do think it's going to more lean towards the seat plus usage-based pricing, which we've already seen pop up as more of that pass-along cost for here's like your basic credits and the platform functionality, and that's our core differentiation. And then if you're a power user, we can't eat that cost. And so we're going to put our uplift on Opus or Codex or whatever model, and we'll make our money that way because you're consuming it through our platform. I don't know. What do you think, man? What's your prediction here?
Yeah, pretty much aligned with yours. I think that's the only way when you think about it. Yeah, it's
You can't have all in, right? You can't have a fixed seat, all unlimited tokens. That won't work.
yeah. I mean, I think maybe there might be some quarterly or maybe semi-annual play like that where they're just going to say we'll transfer our marketing budget to offset this for any teams we onboard type play. Oh, if you do now, you get your first 6 months, but that's just like the onboarding deep discount. And then once that's gone, then they got to pivot you to seat plus consumption.
Yeah. And so there are three models they outlined in this for SaaS companies. So outcome linked seats, which is what I talked about, the fairness pricing. So this is like a Workday or QuickBooks. How many employees do you have? You're going to fall into this tier. That's how much we're going to charge you for your HR system. Obviously, small businesses have less employees. We charge per employee. You should pay less than GE or Amazon. That just makes sense. That's fair. Um, then the last one was like kind of these systems of record, which I don't know. In a way, you don't want to be in this category. I feel like because I don't know. So depending on the definition of this, but you want to be more than a system of record. But I think what it means is embedding a business is essentially a bunch of processes, as we just talked about, trying to record all those and then institutionalize that with AI and being able to coordinate these processes more efficiently. It's kind of like a Salesforce. What is my quote to cash? What is my marketing lead to my marketing qualified to sales to bid, close rate, all that kind of stuff. So those are the three. And I just wonder with this new pricing, does that mean the SaaS apocalypse is like way exaggerated? Because everyone's going to be using tokens and people are building more software than ever, but you're still going to differentiate on some features and then people are going to pay for more tokens. So is the terminal value going to go up?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I don't know if there will be a SaaS apocalypse. I think what we've talked about is now it's finding that like the tools like Claude are more the main, like main window pane or whatever you want to call it, where before we were always trying to like automate, integrate, make everything talk to each other. And I think we'll still be using Salesforce and we'll still be using Slack. You're not going to vibe code those. They're just all going to work through like your Claude because it's now going to be easier to operate. So you still have to pay for those on top of your Claude. So I think the whole SaaS apocalypse was a little overblown. I think they're for wrappers of just, hey, we have a Claude wrapper type tool. Yes, those guys are dead. But
Yeah, I think the models labs will eat them more than anything. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. So we had some internal discussions, or I did with some interesting smart people, and they said there's two moats, and one is speed and the other one's data. And so I thought that was pretty interesting, which makes sense, right? The whole thing why startups can be successful is because they can move faster than the larger incumbents, but the incumbents have data, so that's one of their moats. So it's kind of interesting though, because if you can build your platform faster on top of somebody and all the data flows through your platform, you can disintermediate the underlying platform and capture all the data. And now you have the system of record, which is always scary. So it's going to be interesting how it plays. I totally agree. I think the SaaS apocalypse blown out of proportion. I don't know. Not everyone's going to adjust. The Atlassian CEO on this podcast he says the models. So the whole argument of if that we stopped building or improving the LLMs today, we still have 5-10 years of like benefit that needs to cascade through the GDP and organizing around what these capabilities are as a general purpose technology. I thought was interesting, but more, he called out UI. So he's like, we have all of this super PhD in your pocket. And what do we do with it? We say, tell me a good dad joke. Please clean up the grammar on this transcript I just used or spoke into. Give me something funny. So I thought that was intriguing is to your point, the wrappers and the UI. Humans are amazing creatures, but we're not always the smartest. We're naturally lazy. So it's like, how can we get the most from doing the least? So we need these nudges. And so I think there's going to be interesting developments around how do you get humans to work better with agents to get the agents to do more in the real world that is beneficial to the real world. And there seems to be a chasm there.
Yeah. I mean, but you called it, there is the chasm, and that we haven't crossed it yet, but I think that we're slowly getting there, working on the
Are we?
agents.
How much has your revenue grown? Has it 10x in the
Yeah.
last year since Cloud Code came out?
Yeah. No, I hear you. I think for me, speaking for me, it's still a bandwidth, because now when I do find the time, I am running those like to-dos. And I think I shared a couple of weeks ago about the one customer who's like a solopreneur, and he was going to hire a junior SDE, like software development engineer. But then he just started like taking time to do stuff in Cloud Code. And he's like, it's doing like 80 to 60% of what I was going to hire this person to do. And now I just carve out time to tackle one to do a week. And so maybe not revenue, and who knows what revenue it's generated, but maybe it's saved him the overhead. So,
Yeah.
it's
That's
more better.
There's that quote of what do you want to hire 50 interns to do all the work that you want to do, don't want to do? That's just the rote, boring, they can learn. But what do? They ask you so many questions on how they do the work that you can't get anything else done. So you're just mentoring interns to do basic work. So it's in that capacity, you can make the argument you should replace the interns, or you could just give the interns your agent to ask the agent questions. I think that's really where things will evolve, because a lot of humans have natural curiosity and capacity to learn. And that's what I'm finding, dude. Like you and me, there's definitely people that naturally lean into this, and we're learning faster because we can get the answers to our questions, and we're so faster, and there's no judgment. And it's just less friction. And it's not just about information. I think it meets you wherever you are. And that was always the thing I took away from school was some of the best tutors, or one of the things, are someone who's one or two steps ahead of you, not the professor who's 50, because that person can't relate to where you are as well as the person who just figured out how to get to that next step. And so that's why students can make such good tutors, because they're not that far ahead and they remember how they got there. So that's the beautiful thing about agents, is they'll just meet you wherever you are. And so it is pretty phenomenal. Like I made the app today. I was talking to my kids last night, like, hey, I made you this Flash app. She's like, oh yeah, I use that sometimes. Do you want to change it? Like, we can do it. My son's like, that's cool. Can I make an app? I was like, we can do it this weekend. It's so trippy to me, man.
Yeah. No, that's a good analogy. And it's more people need to look at it that way and play with it.
Yeah. Did you read this article from A16Z I sent you over? It's institutional AI versus individual AI.
Skimmed it. Yeah.
I was like, yes, this resonated so well. So I'll just read a couple of things. AI just made every individual 10 times more productive. But let's say engineers, right? No company has become 10 times more valuable as a result. True. Where did all the productivity go? This isn't the first time it happened. And so electricity is a general purpose technology, meaning it can be used in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different fashions. It can make your stove hot, your oven hot. It can power the fan in the oven, right? It can power cars and all sorts of things. And so the article walks through some of that. But to me, that was just like in front of your face, so obvious. But until I read it, I was like, yes, there's a gap here. Like, what is happening? And I don't know. I take this not so much to pick a side on Gen AI is worthless, or like we're all AGI is coming and our jobs, we're going to be at 20% unemployment. But there's a middle here, and we're not there. I really wonder, like, the 1,600 people that just got laid off, like, that's cost cutting. They didn't add 200 million in revenue. So like, there's only so much cost cutting. You can't cost cut your way to growth. Whereas Lovable apparently just hit 400 million with 164 employees. And is that AI driven, or is that enabled by AI? But that's a product market fit that just is resonated really well. It's definitely both. I just think our baby human brains want to put things in one of two buckets. We like black or white. Like we like 0 or 1. It's like, can't be both. No. Me no likey.
So true.
Yeah. So that was on Substack. That was a really, so I think we have a ways to go. I'm going to sound like a raging asshole. So I don't know if you look, I mean, I look around my company, I interact with a lot of different people. They do, I don't know, understand their jobs, but to think that AI is going to swoop in and do all of our jobs is, we're not even, you could
Yeah.
fire people, but it doesn't mean the job's getting done. Like, I don't know. There's this massive disconnect between like executive or top down leadership on what they think Gen AI can do or will do. And then there's, I feel like the reality, and it's more just like having people do more with less. That's what I feel like it comes down to. Yeah. All right, man. Let's see. I think that was where was going to end. Oh, so I'll just close it out with this. None of this from the article negates the need for chatbots, agents, and individualized AI as a whole. So it's not like AI is
Okay.
meaningless or worthless. It's just, it's going to take time to redesign the teams and the systems and the companies. But I think you're going to see the Wall Street Journal had an article, the cognitive burnout for managing agents. Like you can't just have all these agents running, and we're gonna have to create new jobs to manage some of these outcomes. But yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
optimistic.
I'm optimistic too.
Cool. Y'all, we will see you next week.